it to me for the full price as a burial.
All right. Everything's going crazy. What's happening, everybody? Jake Johnson here with Untethered. Everything wrong with Genesis. Featuring the Friendly Atheist. I'm your host, Jake Johnson. And man, it's a lovely day. Let me tell you, I got on the computer, got ready to do my podcast, and everything just quit. So I just had to rush through and re-log on to everything and re-up everything. And I'm not even sure if I'm going live right now. So if somebody's in the chat, say hello so I know you're here. Let me check the page and see if anybody's seeing me. How about that? Well, it says I'm live anyway. And then I get into my main webpage here and my video's already running. It's crazy. Nectar of the gods, if there were any, which they're not. There's only one real God. Anyway, had a show last night. I spent the whole day there. We got there at 10 o'clock in the morning. Set everything up, about 2 hours worth of setup, and then the rest of the day I spent standing around hanging out with people. 7 o'clock at night rolls around, we start the show, play for 4 hours. 11 o'clock at night, we tear everything down, load it up, good and exhausted by now. Get back to the band house, get on my motorcycle, and start home. As soon as I get on my bike and start home and get a good distance away from the band house, I run out of gas. Then my battery dies. So I'm pushing a 900-pound motorcycle down the highway, wee hours in the morning. I think it was about midnight, 1 o'clock time this is rolled around. And I pushed about an hour. I didn't push very long, but long enough that I was wore slap out. You know, my legs were shaking, my heart was pounding, couldn't hardly go, but I was determined I was going to make it to a gas station one way or another. And this nice couple of guys pulled over and had some gas on their truck, and they gave me some gas, and then they gave me a jump and got me going. So I made it onto the gas station, made it in home safe and sound. But when I got home, I didn't even make it as far as the bed, and I fell out. And that was it. I didn't wake up all day today. I slept all day. I was tired. Now I feel like I called Mike Tyson a sissy. All my muscles hurt. I got a sore throat from being out in the night air. But it's okay. We're going to bust some atheist heads tonight one way or another. Where's everybody at? I can't start till there's somebody here to talk to. I know there's one of you here. According to my analytics, at least one. Up 3. There's 3 of you here. There's one. Hey, April. Good to have you. There's another one. I knew you were hiding in there somewhere. You didn't hear what I said. I had a good show. I was there all day from about 10 o'clock till about midnight. I was exhausted. Good show, though. Got on my bike, ran out of gas, battery died, had to push the bike about an hour. Wore myself out, just about killed myself. Then a couple of guys stopped and gave me some gas and jumped me off and got me on the highway again. I made it home, passed out. You're up to speed. Oh, I slept all day. And I feel like I called Mike Tyson a sissy. And now you heard it all. Ba-da-ba-ba-da. What a day. Whew. I said it with a lot more passion than that the first time around. It's kind of hard to repeat yourself. And for some reason, my lips look orange. Does it look that way to you? Like I've been sucking on an orange icy or something. That's weird. The show was good. Had a good turnout. Had a good band. Did well. No problems. No issues. Just had a good night. It wasn't the best turnout I've ever had, but considering the circumstances, you know, COVID-19 and all that, we're lucky we had a crowd at all. What do you mean it hasn't started yet? Can you not see me? April? Tell April to go out and come back in or hit refresh or something, because I think because of what happened with the computer earlier, the reason I was late. I don't think she's seeing me. I think there was some screwery going on with YouTube. Didn't want to let me in to start with. I finally got it working, though. Can you see me now? Hello, hello, hello. Lord have mercy. It's been a rough weekend, man. I come out of the house last night and busted my tail walking down the steps. I got a nice big old bruise on my arm. You can't probably see it, but it's right there in that area. On my leg. Nearly killed myself pushing my motorcycle. Slammed my finger in the door today. Now the website don't want to work. I just need to go back to bed. That's what I need to do. Bad day. It's Friday the 13th. That's what I get for working on Friday the 13th. Can you see me now, April? Or, you know, whatever date it is in your neighborhood. That doesn't tell me whether you can see me or not. The devil don't want me here, I guess so. It seems that way sometimes, don't it? Excellent. We're off to a running start. I wonder if anybody else that comes in is going to have any trouble. Whatever. How is your guys' weekend going? Everything good on your side? It's been a nice weekend for me. Trying to get by. Had a pretty good show. I was glad to be working again. You didn't have trouble getting in at all. But you said you couldn't see me. Excellent. When you only do one show every 6 months, you tend to be grateful when you get it. And now they're talking about locking us down again, and we just got started opening back up. I don't know if I'm going to survive the next year. I really hope that that doesn't happen, that they see the wisdom in not locking us down again. Because if they do, we're all going to be in a lot of trouble. I don't know why they would want to do that in the first place. It seems like they're trying to sell the country out. I'm sure that's not what's on their mind, but it sure seems that way. Yeah, they're talking about a national mandate. Make everybody wear masks and locking the country down. The whole country, though, not just some places. I don't know that they're going to do it, but that's what they're talking about. Well, some of them are talking about it. You know, those guys. The other people are not talking about it. Either way, I really hope they don't do it. I just started getting my toes wet again. I don't need to go back into unemployment. Not that I'm employed, but, you know, at least I had one show. Might have another one coming down the road. I need to get back to working every week so I can pay my bills and do all the things. Say what again? About being unemployed? About having a show possibly down the road? Kevin's logging in now. Good. Anxious to get started. My fists are itching. You see that? That's hellfire and brimstone. You see that? I'm scared of that one myself. Oh, I just said they're talking about shutting the country down. You know, the Biden camp. They want to lock the whole country down for another 6 months and cure us. Never mind that Trump has just released a vaccine that's 90% effective. Imagine that, 90% effective. I don't know of any drug that's 90% effective, but as I told you before, as soon as the election is over, so will COVID be. I believe that. I could be wrong, but I believe that. That is my opinion. My opinion is that they've overinflated the terror of COVID for political reasons. It is a real disease, but it's 0.1% deadly. Only most of the time with comorbidities, which means that you're already sick of something else and probably going to die anyway. It's not nearly as bad as, say, the Spanish flu was. It's just slightly as bad as a bad flu season. It just does make those numbers. More people die on the toilet this year than they died of COVID. Put it that way. More people die of cigarettes every year than COVID could do. Nobody's locking the country down over cigarettes. So, I don't see why we need to do that. But I'm not running the country, so it's not my call. We need Trump to hurry up and win, though, because if he don't, we're going to be in serious trouble coming here in the near future. It's been teetering for quite a while. I don't know if he's going to win or not, but I have held faith from the day he came down the escalator, and I'm going to continue to hold faith and say that he will continue to be our president, one way or another. If I'm wrong, so be it. I just can't see Biden winning without having even campaigned. Yeah. Me and Allison have had arguments before about ideologies. I don't know that I necessarily agree with those numbers, but I know what I know. Everybody else knows what they know. You just have to wait and see. Go Trump, that's right. And yes, you will have new cases. I'm going to say this, not because I believe it, but because this is the thing that's been said often. And I don't know why people have such trouble wrapping their heads around it, because it's pretty simple. But if you have more testing than anyone else in the world, you will have more cases than anyone else in the world. We're doing a lot of testing, which means a lot of people are getting diagnosed. Also, you have to understand that there's an incentive in the hospitals to rule things COVID-19 because they get money every time they get a COVID case. So there's an incentive. That's why cancer has gone down 100% since COVID started. Cancer hadn't gone down. They just ain't looking for it anymore. Go to your local hospital. Go to your local morgue. Go to your local flower shop and just see what their numbers are doing. Surely if thousands upon thousands of people are dying in the world, then the flower shops will be overrun with business, right? Because of all the funerals. I live above a flower shop. I can tell you from 100% certainty that while the business has increased, it's not dramatic. Now, you can chalk that up to me living in an area that doesn't have a lot of COVID, but I'm hearing similar numbers around the country. Yeah, a few people have different beliefs, that's true. And they are testing everywhere with lots and lots of tests. It's in the eggs. It could be. Personally, I think it's in the air, but that's just me. When I start seeing bodies piling up in places, then I'm going to start worrying about it. Until then, I'm going to live life as normal and try to encourage other people to do the same. Because I don't believe it's a problem. It's not a problem at the moment. I don't know who knows. I know what I know, and that could be a good thing or a bad thing. There. Kevin, what's up, brother? It's an ale house steak time home and bourbon night. We got takeout and are watching you on the 65-inch larger-than-life screen. Wow. I can't imagine what my head looks like on that screen. That's a scary, very horrific thought. What? Bodies piling up? They're not. There's nothing to worry about. Or is it scary thinking about my head being 65 inches larger than life? That's pretty terrifying. Yeah, there's not going to be any zombies. I promise you that. That was a one-time thing, and it's not going to happen again. And they weren't really zombies. They were spirits. And they weren't trying to eat anybody's flesh or anything. They were just walking around. And probably wondering, what the hell am I doing here? That I'm referring to the event that occurred when Jesus died. Okay. Are you guys ready to get started on some atheist busting? Do what? I look great, thank you. I'm a sexy beast. That didn't even sound sexy. Atheist busting. That's what I said. Are you ready? Let's go. I'm ready. Okay. I think I can handle that.
Genesis 23. Sarah is leaving us. But don't worry, Abraham is about to buy himself a cave. Sarah lived to be 127 years old. She died at Kiriath Arba, that is, Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham went to mourn for Sarah and to weep over her. Well, that was abrupt. Way to begin the chapter. She got old and died. No
Yeah, people tend to do that, Atheist. You will too.
details. They don't matter to the Bible people. We got more genealogies to get to or something. Give Sarah some credit here, though. She's actually the only woman in the Bible whose age of death we ever learned. And it turns out she lives longer than any other woman in the Bible.
Did I just hear you say that she's the only woman in the Bible whose age of death we ever learned? That's not true at all. Read the Bible. There's lots of deaths recorded in the Bible.
As far as we can tell. So, yay? Her obituary is going to have a lot of weird tangents about her lifelong jealous battles with her slave Hagar, but otherwise, a very full life. Is it weird?
She's not going to have an obituary. This is a long time ago. They didn't do obituaries in stone.
That, like, a minute after Abraham was about to murder his son, he's now mourning over the loss of his wife?
He wasn't going to murder him. He was going to sacrifice him, and he was going to do that because God told him to do that. He didn't want to do that. And he would have mourned his loss also.
I can't tell which deaths matter to him.
All of them.
Then Abraham rose from beside his dead wife and spoke to the Hittites. He said, I am a foreigner and stranger among you.
You need to learn about the Hittites. They were a strange group of people. Do some research into who they were and where they lived and why God had them destroyed.
Sell me some property for a burial site here so I can bury my dead. Look at him negotiating again. He is at the funeral and tells these guys, see this body? Pity me.
In those days, a funeral took 3 days. He was not at the funeral. His wife was probably being prepared for burial, and he was out trying to find a place to bury her, which is what you do in those situations.
Now sell me some of your finest land so I can put her 6 feet under. The Hittites replied to Abraham,
You know, when my mother died, the day she died, I had to prepare the family. That was my job, to dole out her possessions and make sure everything was clean and ready to go and dig the grave. And then a couple of days later, I put her in the ground. Are you going to say that I didn't love my mother because I did the work after her death? It was my job to do the work. I did the same thing for my dad. And I'll do the same thing for anybody else in my family who wishes it done. All they have to do is ask me to take care of it, and I'll take care of it, just like I did the first ones. It's my job. It's what I do. I'm sure that Abraham, being the patriarch of his family, felt the same way. It's his job. Why you would have a problem with that is beyond me. That just shows how petty you can be, because I doubt very seriously that you're man enough to put your wife in the ground when she goes. Can you? Do you have the stomach for it, young man? I don't think you do.
Sir, listen to us. You are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our tombs. None of us will refuse you his tomb for burying your dead. Oh, no haggling this
Hey, Kevin, keep your hands to yourself for an hour. I'm trying to teach you something here.
time? That's no fun. And if they're willing to give up the choicest of their tombs, what were the cheap ones like? It's a tomb. You could bury her in a cardboard box. It won't matter. She's dead. But wait, Abraham doesn't just want a tomb. He wants more.
He wants a place that's befitting his wife to be buried. Do you understand that? Why would you want to put your wife in a cardboard box? Yes, that would be sufficient. But you understand that Christians, or people of the faith, are kind of religious in that sense. They have a ceremony that they go through called a funeral, where they put their loved ones in a tomb or enclosure, and they seek to put them in a decadent one. There's nothing wrong with that. Personally, I think if you just throw me in a ditch and put some dirt over it, that'll be fine. Let my body go back to where it came from. Everybody doesn't feel that way. Some people sit at the graveside and talk to their dead ones even though they're not there. Whatever makes you get through the day, that's all.
He wants some real estate. Then Abraham rose and bowed down before the people of the land, the Hittites. He said to them, If you are willing to let me bury my dead, then listen to me and intercede with Ephron, son of Zohar, on my behalf, so he will sell me the cave of Machpelah, which belongs to him and is at the end of his field. Ask him to sell it to me for the full price as a burial site among you. We went from, can I have a tomb, to sure, we'll give you a tomb, to interesting, let me think about it, and you know what? I want that entire cave.
First of all, the Hittites, out of respect, offered Abraham a tomb of his choosing. I'm talking top-notch, high-dollar, enclosed, in-stone tomb. He says, that's not necessary. I'll take that cave over there that nobody's using. A cave. A cave and a tomb do not cost the same amount. A cave is a natural hole in the ground. A tomb is built by men, costs a lot of money. He's actually saving the Hittites money by taking the by taking the cave over the tomb. This is what you call a concession. He's conceding rather than taking the man's tomb, which was probably meant undoubtedly for one of his family members. I'll take the cave, and the man agrees and gives it to him. So what's the problem?
Ephron the Hittite was sitting among his people, and he replied to Abraham in the hearing of all the Hittites who had come to the gate of his city. No, my lord, he said, listen to me. I give you the field, and I give you the cave that is in it.
Because it's not very valuable to him. He gives it to him, no problem, no price. That's very kind of him.
I give it to you in the presence of my people. Bury your dead. Damn, he's giving it away? Very nice of him. Too nice.
Behave, children. Don't make me separate you two.
Unusually nice. That can't be good. Seems like a major red flag. Again, Abraham bowed down before the people of the land, and he said to Ephron in their hearing, listen to me, if you will. I will pay the price of the field. Accept it from me so I can bury my dead there.
You see, his honor won't allow him to accept it for free, even though it was offered for free. He wants to pay the full price for it. That's fair.
Ephron answered Abraham, listen to me, my lord. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. But what is that between you and me? Bury your dead. Ephron's like, I'll give you a price, but seriously, just take it. That rotting body is starting to smell, and you need to bury her ASAP.
You see, Abraham knows that if he accepts the land without purchasing it, that later on they can take it back from him, and he wants to secure the land in which his family is buried for all time by owning the deed to it. This is what a man does. There's no wrong here. It may be haggling, and you could argue it about being stubborn or, not taking the man's gift or whatever, but Abraham's not being dumb here. He's being smart. So let it slide.
Why does everyone precede their statements with, listen to me, we don't have another choice?
Because that's the way he spoke. And yes, you do have another choice. The Hittites could just kick him out and not hear him at all. Listen to me is the same thing in those days as me saying, hey, what's up? In these days. Or, hey, I got something to say. In these days. Listen to me is just the way he spoke.
This is actually an interesting trick Ephron is trying to pull. If he generously gives away the land for the burial, he can still claim to own it.
See? Abraham knows this, which is why he's insisting on paying for it so that he has a receipt. This is smart business. No problem here.
But Abraham sees right through that and insists on paying money for it so there can be no doubt it's his. Abraham...
And if you understand that, why did you spend the last 5 minutes telling me how dumb it was?
agreed to Ephron's terms and weighed out for him the price he had named in the hearing of the Hittites, 400 shekels of silver, according to the weight,
which was not a problem for Abraham. He had plenty of money.
Current among the merchants. So Ephron's field in Machpelah, near Mamre, both the field and the cave in it, and all the trees within the borders of the field, was deeded to Abraham as his property.
And now he owns the whole field and the cave therein. That's his property. Now the Hittites can't take it from him, neither can anyone else, and he can claim ownership to it.
The presence of all the Hittites who had come to the gate of the city. Afterward, Abraham buried his wife Sarah in the cave in the field of Machpelah near Mamre, which is at Hebron, in the land of Canaan. So the field and the cave in it were deeded to Abraham by the Hittites as a burial site. I'm pretty sure they just said the same thing 3 different times.
They did, because when the Bible repeats itself 3 times, it's very important information. This is an indication that you should listen, because you see, not only did Abraham secure a place for his wife's burial, but he secured a place for his whole family's burial. Now he doesn't have to do that ever again, because he has a place to bury his dead.
A little side note here. Abraham just bought what is now called the Cave of the Patriarchs. After the Temple Mount?
Both, April. He was the father of the Jews and the Muslims. The Jews is just one of the 12 tribes. The Jews come from Judah. There are 12 tribes, one of them being Judah. He's also the father of Ishmael, which is the person who eventually started the Muslim faith. That line of family is where the Muslims live. The other line is where the Christians live.
Jewish people consider it the second holiest spot in the world. Somehow, that fact didn't make it in the Bible because we were too busy learning about who sold it and where it's located.
And because at that time it was not considered the second most holy place in the world because they didn't live that long yet. Now it has to exist and become a place of veneration to the people. It wasn't that when Abraham bought it, he was the only one who knew he owned it. That's why it's not mentioned.
I don't understand why we need this chapter. Here, I'll do the whole thing right now. Sarah died. Then Abraham bought some fancy land to bury her. Seriously.
What about a field and a cave do you consider to be fancy? I don't understand your way of thinking. Because he owned it, it was fancy? Is that jealousy?
Bible people, hire me.
You see, not everyone knows what they're talking about. No one knows what they're doing.
Genesis 24. Wait till you hear how Abraham makes promises. And who knew the ancient version of Christian mingle involved camels? Strap in, this one is long, and that's partly because you're going to hear the same story twice.
You'll hear it 3 times.
Abraham was now very old, and the Lord had blessed him in every way. He said to the senior servant in the household, the one in charge of all that he had, "Put your hand under my thigh." No! Bad Abraham! And has the Lord really blessed Abraham in every way?
This is an expression. It means kneel down beside me where I can speak to you man to man.
It wasn't that long ago when God told Abraham to murder one of his sons, and the other son was banished, and his wife just died.
No, his wife died a long time ago. Didn't the first sentence say now he was an old man? He's near death. He's bedridden now.
If those are blessings, please, God, curse me. I want you to swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you will not get a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I am living, but will go to my country and my own relatives and get a wife for my son Isaac.
Because it's important that that bloodline be carried forward. If he gets a wife from the Canaanites, it'll be a different bloodline. That's why this is in here, because it's illustrating the need to push that particular bloodline forward.
The servant asked him, "What if the woman is unwilling to come back with me to this land? Shall I then take your son back to the country you came from?" Okay, Abraham is telling his servant to fetch him a wife for his son Isaac, but not a local woman. They're all garbage because they're not the people Abraham grew up with. It's like the ancient version of demanding racial purity.
Well, yes, but not because they're garbage, but because they're of the wrong bloodline. That's not garbage, that's just different people. And yes, at one time, racial purity was a very important thing. It's a sad thing that it's not anymore.
someone from his hometown in Mesopotamia who will return to Canaan. And just in case you've forgotten why Canaan is so problematic, let me remind you. This one time, the father of Canaan, Ham, saw his father Noah naked. So Noah put a curse on the Canaanites. It's seriously that petty. Also, it seems like Abraham is dying, right? This is his last wish. Hey, listen, I need you to cut my balls in your hand so I can give you one final order.
If your balls are under your thigh, I would go see a doctor, because that's not where they're located. I want you to think about somebody laying in bed, and then someone kneeling beside the bed and leaning over to where you can talk face to face with the person in the bed. Where are your hands? On the edge of the bed or under his thigh? It's an expression. Jesus, grow up.
Except he's still gonna live another 35 years. That's a lot of thigh touching. It's a good question at the end though. What if the woman doesn't want to come back here? It's about time someone in this book listened to.
No. What he's saying is, what if the woman doesn't want to leave her country to go to a foreign country to get married? Am I to bring the man to her so they can get married in that country? It's not about her desire to go there. It's not about slavery or anything like what you're suggesting. It's about, what if the woman I find doesn't want to leave her country? Should I bring the kid to her? Or should I bribe her and bring her anyway?
A woman? Not that Abraham cares. Make sure that you do not take my son back there, Abraham said. The Lord, the God of heaven, who brought me out of my father's household and my native land, and who spoke to me and promised me on oath, saying, to your offspring I will give this land, he will send his angel before you so that you can get a wife for my son from there.
In other words, just go there. There'll be one waiting for you when you get there. You won't have anything to worry about.
If the woman is unwilling to come back with you, then you will be released from this oath of mine. Only do not take my son back there.
I actually wish that a wife was that easy to get these days. I'd have one already.
So the servant put his hand under the thigh of his master Abraham and swore an oath to him concerning this matter. The thigh thing is just completely unnecessary.
It would be in your eyes. However, if you take a minute to think like an adult, you'll understand what they're saying here.
Abraham is saying he controls this land, and he wants a wife for his son who comes from their homeland to come back here. Right. So their kids will outbreed the garbage neighbor Canaanites.
With the exception of the garbage thing, right. That's the point. It's not about garbage people. He just wants to outbreed them because that's what he was promised.
If the servant can't do that, he is dead to Abraham. That is some seriously demented long-term planning.
Did he say that? I don't think he said that. I think you added that.
Then the servant left, taking with him 10 of his master's camels loaded with all kinds of good things from his master.
As is customary in those days, to be betrothed, you must first offer a dowry. A dowry is an offering to the wife or the wife's father, depending on her age, and it's usually valuable. That's why it's customary to give the wife to the son, because of the dowry. It's a business transaction. You see, marriage in those countries don't mean the same thing it does in this country. It is love. They do love each other. They do grow together and have a family, but it's about the families connecting, becoming one. It's about property ownership. It's about business and the transfer of funds. You see, there's a lot going on in a marriage, not just sex. We Westerners don't think very clearly in this area.
He set out for Aram Naharaim and made his way to the town of Nahor. He had the camels kneel down near the well outside the town. It was toward evening, the time the women go out to draw water. Is it weird that Abraham and Isaac refused to return to their homeland themselves? Did they get blacklisted and we were never told?
No, God told them to go into another country and set up their kingdom. So that's what they've done. They don't want to go back to the other place because their future is in this place. Pay attention.
Cancel culture existed even back then.
No,
And is the servant trying to lure women to him with 10 camels?
Yes. Where do you go to find a wife? A place where a lot of women gather.
Also, it's really creepy to just go hang out in the place where...
Wait, is that any different than what we do now when we go to a bar on ladies' night to pick up a chick? Is there any difference? I don't think so. I think you're just dwelling on the place. It's a little weird to you because you don't own camels. If you owned camels and you knew of a place where a lot of chicks would gather and be a captive audience for a little while they feed their camels, that'd be the place you'd want to go to find a wife.
Women gather so you can scoop one up to be someone's wife. Let them have their space. Then he prayed, Lord...
What good does that do anybody to let them have their space? Then nobody's married. Let them have their space. What do you think the woman wants? She wants a man that can protect her and provide for her. All women, unless they're some blue-haired feminist, want a man. They don't want some poor bastard that don't even have a ride. They want a man that can be strong. And women respond to strength. Something you probably don't know anything about.
God of my master Abraham, make me successful today and show kindness to my master Abraham. See, I am standing beside this spring, and the daughters of the townspeople are coming out to draw water. May it be that when I say to a young woman, please let down your jar that I may have a drink, and she says, drink, and I'll water your camels too.
Oh, Jesus.
Let her be the one you have chosen for your servant Isaac.
There's 2 women in this room right now. Am I wrong, women? Do you not respond to a man of strength? Does he not open up the doors for you, so to speak? Tell me I'm wrong. Obviously, there's more to think about in these days than there was in those days in concerns of pairing with someone. But when you were a child, was not your first thought about who you would marry? I'm just saying, people want to get married. That's the nature of people. Western civilization has ruined people's minds where they think that they have some entitlement that they don't have, and it causes people to not get married. But the average rule is people want to be paired up with someone. 2 people make a better partnership, makes a better life. Needs are met. There's no harm in this. You make it sound like getting married is a bad thing. Getting married is the point. You want to make babies. You want to make life with your penis. You don't want to waste it. Stop playing with yourself and get married if you haven't already.
By this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master. That seems sweet. If a woman offers the servant some water for him and the camels, he'll know she's kind, and then he'll steal her for Isaac. Before he had finished praying, Rebekah came out with her jar on her shoulder. She was the daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah.
And let me tell you, Rebekah was smoking.
Who was the wife of Abraham's brother Nahor. The woman was very beautiful, a virgin. No man had ever slept with her. She went down
All good points.
to the spring, filled her jar, and came up again.
Go on.
Wait. How do we know she's a virgin? Who is verifying this information?
Well, you see, there's this thing in those days called a handmaid, and they would literally insert a finger to find out if the hymen had been broken, and that's how you would verify that a woman was a virgin. I don't know why you don't know this. If you've ever watched Prince of Thieves, you know this. Also, it was a virtue in those days to be a virgin. You wanted to be. You didn't want to be chaste, or unchaste, rather, when a man came and approached you. You wanted to be a virgin, because that's a sellable point. Use your brain, son.
Is she wearing a scarlet V? I guess the only way you could tell she's a virgin is if she's really young. But if that's the case, why is she about to be Isaac's wife? That's weird and wrong. There is no good way out of this. Just to keep them straight.
Kevin, make life with that penis. Use that hammer wisely, my son.
Rebecca is the daughter of Nahor, Abraham's brother. And this is all happening in the town of Nahor,
which is in the home country, like was told to be done.
I think the Bible just ran out of names. And yes, that means Isaac is about to marry his cousin, which is a thing that's not weird at all.
It's not weird at all today. Go do a little research in marriages. You'll find out that a large portion of the country marries some version of their cousin. Because when you have a close group of people, it's kind of hard to miss somebody you're related to. There's no harm in marrying a second cousin. You don't want to marry a first cousin because that's too close to your bloodline. But a second cousin, there's no harm in that.
In the Bible, the servant hurried to meet her and said, "Please give me a little water."
Oh, coincidentally, a lot of marriages in the East are still to their cousins today. And some to their brothers and sisters. The royal family's full of that.
From your jar? "Drink, my lord," she said, and quickly lowered the jar to her hands and gave.
This is the ancient version of a woman being open and willing to have a conversation. You know, the hair flipping of the old days?
Gave him a drink. After she had given him a drink, she said, "I'll draw water for your camels too, until they have had enough to drink."
This is a woman proving herself to be a good servant, which is a quality that you want in a woman.
So she quickly emptied her jar into the trough, ran back to the well to draw more water, and drew enough for all his camels. Without saying a word, the man watched her closely to learn whether or not the Lord had made his journey successful.
He's checking her out. He's seeing if she's the one he came for or not. There's no wrong in that. You want to be observant. You want to be a little biased and a little bit discriminate when you choose your partner, because you're going to be stuck with that person for a long time if you follow the traditions of marriage. You want to have a good partner. You want one that's honorable, strong of heart. You want one that's a good servant. You want one that cares about her family paramount. You want one that is fair and just. You want a virgin. You want one that will honor you. I think I already said that. He's checking her out for all these qualities, and she's proving to be the one.
This is the worst episode of The Bachelor. How did Rebecca prove her worth? Well, she poured water, and that's it.
What does your wife do?
Poured water. That is the full extent of her skill set. The entire season is over. Give her the rose. She wins. That's true love right there. There's something very sketchy about a guy just staring at a woman while she gets water because he's quite literally judging her. It's not.
Is that any different than staring at a woman at a bar when you're deciding whether or not to buy her a drink? Or catcalling a hot girl when she walks down the street? I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it's the same principle. How would you rather go in blind to your relationships and not know a thing about the person? That doesn't seem like you're very smart, if that's the case. I don't want a wife that's going to be trouble. I want a wife that I can count on. You see, marriage is not about love. A relationship is about love. But marriage is about what's beneficial for both parties. It's a business transaction. If you are beneficial to each other, then you get married, and then you be prosperous together. It's a harmonious transaction. The relationship, which both parties must be willing, is about love. It's about growing close together and becoming one. There's a lot of things going on in a marriage. I can't believe I have to explain this to you being an adult.
Not too late, Rebecca. Run away. When the camels had finished drinking, the man took out a gold nose ring weighing a beka and 2 gold bracelets weighing 10 shekels. Then he asked, "Whose daughter are you? Please tell me, is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night?" Whoa, I thought we were looking for a wife for Isaac, not hitting on the first woman who stops by the well. Weird.
How do you expect him to find a wife for Isaac? He's asking if her father is about and if there's room to spend the night, in which case he will start a dialogue with the father because the father gives the daughter away. and he will then offer her father a dowry. He will consider it and then either keep his daughter and give the dowry back, or accept the dowry and give his daughter over, which in case he will take her back to Isaac. I don't see why this is a problem to you.
Third pickup line too. Hey, woman I've never met, who's your daddy? And talk about putting pressure on her. He wants to come over, but first, here's some gold. In case anyone is curious, a beka is worth half of 1 shekel. You're welcome. She answered him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son that Milcah bore to Nahor. And she added, we have plenty of straw and fodder, as well as room for you to spend the night. That's a very specific answer.
Yeah, it's an answer to the question he asked. Do you have room for us? Which means me, my servants, and my 10 camels, or however many he had. You see? She's saying, yes, we can feed your camels and put you up for the night. She's being receptive. She knows what he's asking. He wants to meet her father and start a dialogue. She's aware of this. She is in agreement. This is the ancient way of dating.
Whose daughter are you doesn't usually require the names of your grandparents.
Actually, it does. If you've been paying attention, it kind of matters who you belong to.
Then the man bowed down and worshipped the Lord, saying, Praise be to the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not abandoned his kindness and faithfulness to my master. As for me, the Lord has led me on the journey to the house of my master's relatives. Thank you, God, for making sure Isaac will marry his first cousin. That makes this journey a lot safer for me.
It's not his first cousin. It's his second cousin, because it's not customary to marry your first cousin. Might be his third cousin. Might be a cousin down the line. You might be my cousin. It's possible.
Why are we thanking God for any of this? Abraham told the servant which city to visit. Rebecca is the one who showed kindness. God isn't anywhere in this chapter.
Except God told Abraham to tell his servant to do these things. Except Abraham is trying to fulfill his promise to God by doing these things and allow God's promise to happen by doing these things. So God's all over this chapter. You just can't see it because you're not looking for it.
Maybe someone's busy touching his thigh. The young woman ran and told her mother's household about these things. Now Rebecca had a brother named Laban, and he hurried out to the man at the spring as soon as he had seen the nose ring.
Now you see, this is also something that happens. Now the brother wants to go out and judge the man, protect his little sister, because that's what brothers do. This is all normal.
And the bracelets on his sister's arms, and had heard Rebecca tell what the man said to her, he went out to the man and found him standing by the camels.
Good night, Kev. Have a good night, buddy. I appreciate you coming and hanging with me. Sweet dreams.
Near the spring. Come, you who are blessed by the Lord, he said. Why are you standing out here? I have prepared the house and the place for the camels. How does Laban know the servant is blessed? Sounds more like he's sucking up now that he knows the servant has lots of gold to give.
That's exactly what he's doing.
Away. So the man went to the house and the camels were unloaded. Straw and fodder were brought for the camels, and water for him and his men to wash their feet. Then food was set before him, but he said, I will not eat until I have told you what I have to say. Then tell us, Laban said. Okay, we are technically done with this chapter, but the servant will now retell everything that just happened. There's nothing new here, so I don't think there's even more I need to add, so let's just get through the retelling. I am so sorry in advance. So he said, I am Abraham's servant. The Lord has blessed my master abundantly, and he has become wealthy. He has given him sheep and cattle, silver and gold, male and female servants, and camels and donkeys. My master's wife Sarah has borne him a son in her old age, and he has given him everything he owns. And my master made me swear an oath and said, You must not get a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites in whose land I live, but go to my father's family and to my own clan and get a wife for my son. Then I asked my master, What if the woman will not come back with me? He replied, "The Lord, before whom I have walked faithfully, will send his angel with you and make your journey a success, so that you can get a wife for my son from my own clan and from my father's family."
Now you see, what this man is doing is being upfront with his intentions. He's not hiding his purpose for being there. He wants to tell them before they have dinner, before they show him kindness, why he's there. Which they all know why he's there, which is why they're lavishing him with supper and taking care of his livestock and washing his feet and all that stuff. They want to marry off their daughter. They hope this is a man worthy of that honor, which is what they're going to talk about over dinner. So the man is being upfront and telling them what his intentions are and why he's there, and the family is preparing to sell off their daughter because that's the way it was in those days.
"You will be released from my oath if, when you go to my clan, they refuse to give her to you. Then you will be released from my oath."
Incidentally, being released from my oath does not mean that you're dead to me like you said earlier. It means that if you go there and are unsuccessful, because I prayed about this and I believe God's going to deliver a wife, if you go there and aren't successful, then you're free to go. That's what he's saying. You're no longer beholden to me. But if you go there and this all works out the way I think it will, then bring the wife back and we'll continue our relationship.
"When I came to the spring today, I said, 'Lord, God of my master Abraham, if you will, please grant success to the journey on which I have come. See, I am standing beside this spring. If a young woman comes out to draw water and I say to her, 'Please let me drink a little water from your jar,' and if she says to me, 'Drink, and I'll draw water for your camels too,' let her be the one the Lord has chosen for my master's son." Before I finished praying in my heart, Rebecca came out with her jar on her shoulder. She went down to the spring and drew water, and I said to her, "Please give me a drink." She quickly lowered her jar from her shoulder and said, "Drink, and I'll water your camels too." So I drank, and she watered the camels also.
Man, that's a romantic story. I wish that things were like that in these days. I wish that people could make a connection like that. It just doesn't seem to happen that way too much anymore.
I asked her, "Whose daughter are you?" She said, "The daughter of Bethuel, son of Nahor, whom Milcah bore to him." Then I put the ring in her nose and the bracelets on her arms, and I bowed down and worshipped the Lord.
Which is a signification of ownership, in case you didn't know why they were doing that. It means that you now are betrothed, or that you are owned by a bracelet. My family had a tradition where we would make bracelets and put on our fiancés or wives. It was just a funny thing that we did, but the origins of that is actually ownership. That's what slaves did. They wore earrings or nose rings or bracelets, depending on who they were or who they belonged to.
I praise the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who had led me on the right road to get the granddaughter of my master's brother for his son. Now,
basically, it's a way of saying, hey, I've already selected this woman, hands off.
If you will show kindness and faithfulness to my master, tell me, and if not, tell me, so I may know which way to turn. Why didn't the Bible just say, the servant told Laban all he had done? God doesn't have enough time.
Well, you know, they say the devil is in the details.
In the Bible to condemn slavery, but we get page after page of people getting water from a well.
It's a book. What do you expect? You want a screen to pop up? It's a book. There are pages in books.
Anyway, at the end of all that, we have the proposal. A guy who's not getting married is asking the brother and father of the woman who might get married if she can marry a stranger none of them have ever met because he didn't bother to come there himself.
Because it doesn't matter, and also he doesn't know. By the way, that's why he didn't bother to come there himself, because he didn't know that this guy went looking for a wife for him. It's a surprise to Isaac. Now, it doesn't matter what he looks like or who he is. What matters is the details, which is why it was laid out so meticulously. They know this, and this is not unusual in these days.
As one does. But the servant has the two things they can't ignore: gold and God. Laban and Bethuel answered, "This is from the Lord. We can say nothing to you one way or the other. Here is Rebekah. Take her and go."
Also, keep in mind that an angel visited Rebekah before they got there and told her what was going on, which means the angel probably showed her who Isaac was. She was not surprised by this visit.
"And let her become the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has directed." When Abraham's servant heard what they said, he bowed down to the ground before the Lord. Then the servant brought out gold and silver jewelry and articles of clothing and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave costly gifts to her brother and to her mother. Then he and the men who were with him ate and drank and spent the night there. When they got up the next morning, he said, "Send me on my way to my master." You know what we haven't heard yet? Rebekah saying, "Yes, I'll marry him," because
it's not up to her. She's a child. It's up to her father whether she marries him or not, because that's the way it's supposed to be. It isn't that way anymore, but it was that way at one time. She doesn't get a say. She wants to be married. That's her whole purpose in life, is to be married to someone of high status, someone who she can be proud to be married to, who she could fall in love with. It's a whole romantic thing. Watch a few Hindu movies, you'll understand. But you see, an arranged marriage has nothing to do with the parties involved. It has to do with their parents. That's why it's arranged.
her opinion does not matter to any of these men. Why would they care? Their family is getting jewelry and clothes and other costly gifts.
Which is why they would care. Because when you don't have anything, getting jewels and costly gifts is a good thing. You see, that's the purpose of the dowry, to ease tensions for your debtors and to allow your family to prosper and grow bigger, which means you own more. You're related to people who own more, which means now you have power and status. This is a pretty good system. Why they did away with it is beyond me, but it works.
They know what Rebekah is worth, and they are making a trade.
Yes.
But her brother and her mother replied, "Let the young woman remain with us 10 days or so. Then you may go." But he said to them, "Do not detain me now that the Lord has granted success to my journey. Send me on my way so I may go to my master." Then they said, "Let's call the young woman and ask her about it." So they called Rebekah and asked her, "Will you go with..."
Wait a minute. Are they asking Rebekah if she wants to do this or not? That thing you were just complaining about? About her not having a choice? Is this them giving her a choice? And what was her answer? "I will go," she said, meaning she wants to go, meaning it's her choice to go. So that whole thing you just did, irrelevant.
"This man, I will go," she said. Amazing what a little gold and silver will accomplish.
Yeah, you should try it.
Her family's request wasn't even weird. "Hey, you know how we just met you 10 minutes ago and now you want to take away our daughter for the rest of her life? Can we just have like another week and a half with her? Say our goodbyes?" And the servant's response is, "Screw you, I won. Here, have some more gold. Now let me go home. Rebekah, move it." At least
That's not exactly how that went down, and you know it. It's a nice caricature, but that's not what happened. Rebekah is in agreement. She wants to go. The family is in agreement. They want her to go. The brother and the mother are going to miss their sister, which is why they're haggling, trying to get some more time. But what you don't realize is they can go with her and visit her, because she's not gone forever. She's just gone into another family.
she consents, which is a thing we don't hear that often in the Bible. So they sent their sister Rebekah on her way, along with her nurse and Abraham's servant and his men. And they blessed Rebekah and said to her, "Our sister, may you increase to thousands upon thousands.
Which is the purpose for marriage, to increase.
Your offspring possess the cities of their enemies." Then Rebekah and her attendants got ready and mounted the camels and went back with the man. So the servant took Rebekah and left.
And don't worry, her offspring will own the lands of their enemies. Very short succession. Just wait and see.
How's that for a goodbye? We hope you have lots of kids, and we hope those kids murder foreigners and take over their cities.
Well, how would you say goodbye in that situation, under those circumstances?
Now Isaac had come from Beer Lahairoi, for he was living in the Negev. He went out to the field one evening to meditate, and as he looked up, he saw camels approaching. Rebekah also looked up and saw Isaac, so she got down from her camel and asked the servant, "Who is that man in the field coming to meet us?" "He is my master," the servant answered, so she took her veil and covered herself. They didn't even show her a picture of the man she was about to marry.
They didn't have pictures in those days. Think about what you're saying. And by the way, her covering her face is a sign that she's excited to meet him. And also, she saw him in the field and was immediately attracted to him. You see, God knows what he's doing. He wouldn't have put these two together if they weren't a good couple.
She arrives and has to ask, "Who's approaching us?" "Oh, is that my new husband?"
Yes.
Then the servant told Isaac all he had done. Isaac brought her into the tent of his mother Sarah, and he married Rebekah. So she became his wife, and he loved her. And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death.
If you didn't like what happened before, you're certainly not going to like this, because in the ancient Greek, when you spread your skirt over someone, you are married. When he took the woman into his mother's tent, they had sex right there on the spot. First meeting. Didn't even know each other. And then they were married. So if you didn't like the way they got together, you're certainly not going to like what happened when they got together, which was also her choice.
Look at that. The servant told Isaac all he had done. He didn't repeat the whole story for us. It's that simple. Why didn't we do this earlier?
Because it was important that you understand the succession of events, which is why it was repeated.
This is verse 67. And way to cram an entire love story in a single verse. They got married. He loved her. It helped him cope with Sarah's death. By the way, some translations of the Bible say Isaac brought Rebekah into his mother's tent and they had sex.
Duh!
Which adds a whole additional weird Oedipal psychological layer to all this.
I knew you would take issue with that. And why would it add an Oedipal complex to this? This isn't Abraham, this is Isaac. Sarah was not his wife, it was his mother.
How come it says Isaac loved Rebekah, but not the other way around? Oh.
Because he's meeting her for the first time. And because marriage doesn't have anything to do with love.
Oh, right. Nobody cares what Rebekah thinks. Finally, we are done with this marathon of a chapter.
Oh, also, it's a story about Isaac, not about Sarah, which is why they refer to it in his direction. Because Isaac is the important one in the story, in his lineage. Because it's a story about one family. It's not about Rebekah. She's just an incident. She's a means to an end for this story. You understand? It doesn't have anything to do with her not wanting to. She probably loved him very much. It's about Isaac, which is why we understand what Isaac thinks.
What did we learn? Some long, boring story about water and wells?
If it's so boring, why are you telling it? Give up already. I've won a long time ago. But I'll see you to the end of this battle if you wish.
Twice. And that it's apparently very easy to spot a virgin from a distance because of their celibacy aura. And if you're making a promise to someone, always grope their genitals while you do it. Hey, Donald Trump was onto something. Genesis.
Yes, he was. But not because of groping genitals. I'm telling you, you got a lot of nerve.
Genesis 25. The butt babies are back. we're gonna say goodbye to Abraham, and you're about to witness the most expensive stew ever made. Abraham had taken another wife, whose name was Keturah. Well, that was a quick turnaround. Sarah dies, and then a couple chapters later, Abraham is already married.
Yeah, this is not a chronological story, and more than likely this is going back to an event that occurred before the story we just read. It's not that he was laying on his deathbed and then took another wife. But even if he did, again, marriage is not about love or anything else. It's about status.
Where did he meet her? Who is she? Does she know that Abraham might commit murder if the voice in his head tells him to do it? No, seriously, where did he meet her? Did he meet her locally? Because that would probably make her a Canaanite, and the last chapter was all about why Abraham's son Isaac wasn't allowed to marry a Canaanite.
So you know that it wasn't a Canaanite, because it's already been established that he didn't want Canaanite people in his family. So why need you question that?
And if she's not local, seriously, how did he?
I did hear him say butt babies because he thinks that because of a figure of speech that babies come from the butt in the Bible. But that's not the way it is.
Meet her. And how is Abraham still so active? He's been talking about being too old for decades now. Anyway, Keturah does not matter. As with just about all the women in the Bible, all that matters is what comes out of them. She bore him Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Jokshan was the father of Sheba and Dedan. The descendants of Dedan were the Asherites, the Letushites, and the Leumites. The sons of Midian were Ephah, Epher, Hanuk, Abida, and Eldaah. All these were descendants of Keturah.
That's how you build a family, by the way.
Damn, Abraham got to work quickly. How did he do that?
With his penis.
When he and Sarah gave birth to Isaac, they needed God's help. Now suddenly he's just knocking them out without a problem?
Because he got God's help.
What do you think the age gap is here? If you do some quick math, Keturah had 6 kids. There's no verse here about a miracle from God, so she was probably at an age when having babies was normal. So she's young, maybe 20s, 30s?
You go, Abraham. What's the problem here? Women like older men.
But Abraham is well over 100. I mean, I'm not judging another couple, but that's awkward.
You are kind of judging another couple. Matter of fact, that's exactly what you're doing. And by the way, over 100 isn't that big a deal in those days, because they lived a long time.
Abraham left everything he owned to Isaac. But while he was still living, he gave gifts to the sons of his concubines and sent them away from his son Isaac to the land of the east.
Yep.
Remember Abraham's other son Ishmael?
Yep.
Neither does Abraham. The sons of his concubines got more than Ishmael.
Because Ishmael left his family, which means he's no longer his son. They departed. They have their own life to live. And by the way, God blessed Ishmael. They're still around today, which means they were blessed. They have a whole country, several of them actually. So, no skin off of Ishmael's butt.
And who knew Abraham had a secret stash of sons lying around, courtesy of the concubines? They're not even important enough to have names.
What do you think the reason for having concubines is? You think it's a status symbol or a fixture in your house? It's for having babies. That's why people have concubines.
When did he have time to impregnate concubines? Was it when Sarah was around?
Didn't you say he was over 100? He had plenty of time. It don't take very long.
Was Keturah one of the concubines? Abraham lived 175 years. Then Abraham breathed his last and died at a good old age, an old man and full of years. And he was gathered to his people. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah near...
You know that cave that he bought for his family's burial a few chapters back? You're welcome.
Mamre, in the field of Ephron, son of Zohar the Hittite, the field Abraham had bought from the Hittites. There, Abraham was buried with his wife Sarah. After Abraham's death, God blessed his son Isaac, who then lived near Beer Lahairoi. So much for Keturah. Nice knowing you, new wife. I'm gonna get buried near the person I actually love. If you...
Well, where would you put him? He owns the property. And also, men had many wives in those days. This isn't a big problem. She'll probably get buried there also, because she was his wife.
Crunch some numbers. Abraham lived 28 years after Sarah died. And in those 28 years, he met a new wife, had 6 kids, presumably met a bunch of concubines and had more kids. All when he was around 150 years old. What have you done lately? I know you're stuck at home, but you better have...
Well, I made 2. What have you done lately? Maybe we're not doing what we should be doing.
Spawned like 3 dozen kids. Speaking of kids, it's nice to see that Ishmael came back. I'm not sure why, considering Abraham left him with nothing, but it's a nice gesture. This is the account of the family line of Abraham's son Ishmael, whom Sarah's slave, Hagar the Egyptian, bore to Abraham.
He didn't come back. This is just a telling of his story. Because he is Abraham's son, after all. Even though they separated, the Bible felt the need to include him because his family line will be important also in the coming story. You know, the Muslims and all. You are a member of that line, by the way. You should probably look into it.
Really? More genealogy? I'm sorry, everyone. Don't get mad at me. I'm just the messenger. These are...
No, you're not a messenger. Don't compare yourself to an angel. You are a sarcastic telling of an honest book. And that's all. And I'm here to be your conscience and to set you right. So that anybody that hears you talking can hear the bloviating gas that comes out of your mouth.
The names of the sons of Ishmael, listed in the order of their birth. Nebaioth, the firstborn of Ishmael. Kedar, Adbeel, Mibsan, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedema. These were the sons of Ishmael.
Sounds like he did pretty good too.
And these are the names of the 12 tribal rulers according to their settlements and camps. Ishmael lived 137 years. He breathed his last and died, and he was gathered to his people. His descendants settled in the area from Havilah to Shur, near the eastern border of Egypt, as you go toward Asher. And they lived in hostility toward all the tribes related to them. Aw, isn't that a nice ending there? They lived in peace. No, wait, I'm kidding. His descendants all hated each other. I guess Genesis chapter 16, verse 12 was right. Ishmael really did turn into a wild donkey of a man. And he lived in hostility toward all his brothers. At least we don't have to go through the same boring family tree for Isaac. This is the account of the family line of Abraham's son Isaac. Abraham became the father of Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel the Aramean from Padan Aram, and sister of Laban the Aramean. We know, we've heard all this before, more than once. Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of...
I told you would hear it 3 times, did I not?
...his wife, because she was childless. The Lord answered his prayer, and his wife Rebekah became pregnant. The babies jostled each other within her, and she said, "Why is this happening to me?" So she went to inquire of the Lord. So Rebekah couldn't have kids, but then Isaac spoke to God, and poof, everything's working again?
Yes, that's called a blessing. You should try it. Talk to God, see what happens.
What exactly is God doing down there? And what?
Opening her womb. As he is the creator of her womb, surely he knows the inner workings of it and how to fix it if it's broken. That doesn't make it dirty.
Fresh hell is happening inside of her.
She has twins and they're fighting. And this does happen even to this day. It's called a breech birth. You should look into that.
It's hard enough that she's having twins, but they're apparently fighting inside the womb? God must be playing...
So you know what's happening to her. Why are you asking? Why are you acting like you don't know?
a practical joke on her. Or maybe God learned his lesson with Abraham and knows you need to give parents a better incentive before you tell them to murder their children.
Or maybe she has twins who are fighting each other because they will grow up to be some sort of enemy.
Why is she gonna ask God about any of this? He doesn't have a medical degree. At least talk to a midwife.
God doesn't need a medical degree. He created everything. He created it. Means he knows how it works.
The Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you will be separated. 1 people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. God always loves the younger child, even the younger twin. You know, God could have said that one twin is basically hogging the body's resources, leaving the other one weak, but instead we get an explanation that involves geopolitics.
Because that's what happens. What do you think becomes of a womb? They turn into people. Those people grow up and have aspirations. And in this case, those people will grow up to be leaders of countries.
By the way, some Bible translations say the twins will be separated from thy bowels. So even Rebecca is having butt babies.
What do you think the word bowels means? It means this part. It doesn't mean your butt. That's your anus or your rectum, not your bowels. The bowels means inside, the depth therein. That's all that word means. Jonah was in the bowels of the whale, wasn't in his butt.
When the time came for her to give birth, there were twin boys in her womb. The first to come out was red, and his whole body was like a hairy garment. So they named him Esau.
Esau would go on to be the leader or the patriarch of the Russian countries. Hence the color red.
After this, his brother came out with his hand grasping Esau's heel, so he was named Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when Rebekah gave birth to them. Esau came out dressed like a furry, and that's why his name means furry? Is the Bible saying Esau has red hair, or that he looks like a baby orangutan?
Both. He was hairy all over, and he did have red hair. And red skin. And Jacob would become the leader of the Middle Eastern countries. And you see, one is stronger than the other.
Jacob came out grasping Esau's heel, which is not how twins come out, but that...
You think he was a butt baby? I don't disagree.
The phrase, grasping someone's heel, has actually become a Hebrew idiom that means someone's lying. So even language doesn't like Jacob. The boys grew up.
Actually, it's Esau that God hated, not Jacob. You've got that backwards. And, you know, there's another person who will bruise the heel of an individual later on. This is a type. He will crush his head, but he will bruise his heel. That's in the first page of Genesis. Check it out. This is leading up to that, which is why this is a foreshadowing of that.
And Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the open country, while Jacob was content to stay at home among the tents. Isaac, who had a taste for wild game, loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Look at that, a hunter and a herdsman. Very Cain and Abel vibe happening here. It's bad enough.
Yeah, because it's a type. I told you that. It's got a lot of that going on. This will be a very important relationship down the road.
That the Bible is talking about these parents having a favorite child, but Isaac loved Esau more because Esau ate animal meat. I will bet you the people at PETA hate the Bible. Jacob, of course.
I will bet you that I don't care what the people at PETA think. They are just like you, vegan idiots.
Of course, is the mama's boy, because no mother could ever love a child with red hair. That's just a biblical fact. God doesn't like Esau either. In fact, in Romans chapter 9, verse 13, God says, Jacob I have loved, but Esau have I hated.
You wonder why? Could it be because of where Esau came from? Could it be what's in his heart? Could it be that he is tempted of the devil? Could it be that his people will do bad things? There's a reason God doesn't like Esau, and it's not because he just doesn't like him.
How bad do you have to be for God to spell out his hate for you in the Bible?
Well, being a homosexual is a good start, because that was the first time he said he hated something.
Once, when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau came in from the open country, famished. He said to Jacob, "Quick, let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished." That is why he was also called Edom. We get it. Esau means red. His hair is red. He likes his stew red. Edom means red. Point made.
Yeah. Pay attention to that point, because it's telling you who the enemy is, or will be.
Not sure.
Coincidentally, there are two countries that go by a red color. That's Russia and China. Do either one of those sound familiar to you in these days?
Sure why it's important, but point made. You know, there are times when I've been hungry, but I've never once had a craving for stew. Jacob...
You've never once been famished either. Famished means very hungry. You'll eat just about anything, including stew.
Replied, "First, sell me your birthright."
Hey, Sonny, what's happening? I hadn't seen you in a while. Good to have you here.
Okay, a quick lesson here. The firstborn son generally gets the bulk of his dad's inheritance. So Jacob...
Well, he gets a double portion. That's the rule. Yes.
Is basically saying, "Oh, you're hungry? Well, I have some stew. I know how much you love stew. I could give it to you. But in exchange, I want everything you're gonna get after Daddy dies."
Actually, I think it's Esau that sold his birthright, not Jacob who asked for it. You got that backwards.
Whatever amount that is, I'm pretty sure it's not worth trading for.
Which, by the way, if tradition holds true, that would mean that either Russia or China is the rightful proprietorship of Jacob's lineage. Means they own it outright for real, biblically. That's going to come into play in the end times. Watch and see. Somewhere along the line, Israel is going to take ownership of one of those two places. And they can, because it's rightfully theirs, which is the reason God didn't like Esau.
Stew. This is about to become one expensive meal. "Look, I am about to die," Esau said. "What good is the birthright to me?" But Jacob said, "Swear to me first." So he swore an oath to him, selling his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and some lentil stew. He ate and drank and then got up and left. So Esau despised his birthright. You have to love Esau's sarcasm here. "I'm so hungry. I'm gonna die. What good is Daddy's inheritance to me anyway if I'm dead? So fine, take my birthright. And when I'm dead, put your hand under my thigh all you want. This stew better be friggin' incredible."
Leave it to you to find the sarcasm in the Bible. You would respond to that. However, that's the bad thing. That's the thing the Bible is telling you he shouldn't have done. But he did. Because he didn't care about his birthright. He sold it for a bowl of soup. That means he didn't value it very much. The blessing that God bestowed upon him. He didn't have any value for it. Which is why God hated him. I'm just saying.
At least this chapter is ending on a cliffhanger. We had to sit through more genealogies and a very complicated pregnancy, but at least the writers finally brought in some exciting new characters and different plot lines. This is getting good.
Yep, it's getting good. And it's going to get better. But that's it for today. Please take a moment and like, subscribe, and share. Press that bell icon so you'll get notifications when I'm going to be on. Also, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you're thinking. Question me. Challenge me. Insult me. I don't care. Just leave a comment. But if you'd like to support this ministry, if we've helped you and you want us to keep helping you, go to paypal.me/JakeJohnsonBand. It is a tax write-off, and every little bit helps, and I do appreciate it. It is much needed. And with that, I will take your questions or comments or whatever. How's it going, peoples? Let me catch up on the chat, see what's been said. Bup. You go, Jake. He does have a lot of nerve. Yes, he does. Did you hear him say butt babies? Yeah, because he heard the word bowels and thought that that meant butt. OMG. I'm sorry, I can't help but smile. I think he was a butt baby. Yeah. Whoa, dude. This is Sonny. Is that you, Sonny? Sonny's not on here. Thank God. That was weird. Why thank God that Sonny's not on here? I want her to be on here. Him. Whatever. We've already been through that conversation. Okay, mama. Laugh. All right, I'm caught up. How was that? You guys enjoy it? You have any questions or thoughts or expressions of grandeur? Did I do a sufficient job in putting him in his place this week? Oh, I said, thank God because you're done listening to him. Oh, I got you. I misread that. The whoa, dude. I got you. Yep. This week was a long one, but I wanted to get kind of caught up and get that out of the way because one of the videos was real short. It's only 5 minutes, so I wanted to kind of pad out until 10 o'clock. Yeah, he gets a little long-winded at times, but I enjoy tearing him down, and I enjoy not having to read through Genesis because it's a long-winded book. I'm glad you enjoyed it, April. I enjoyed it too. Had a good old time. You see, the atheists find these little things in the Bible to have issue with because it disagrees with their sensibilities, and then they take that and morph it into this, there's no God. And it's beyond me how they jump to that logical conclusion because of the things they take issue with are all personable things. It has nothing to do with God. He gets me so mad. I enjoyed it, but he gets me so mad. Yes, you did a good job setting him straight. Well, thank you, Darlene. He gets me kind of mad, too. Occasionally, I get a little hot under the collar, and occasionally it shows through, but I try to be professional and Christian. Yes, very much, says April. Thank you. I picked a good foe. He seems to strike the nerve that I'm fighting against. I didn't want to pick somebody that would be boring, and he's not boring. He's a good conversationalist. He's just wrong. So I'm glad I chose him. I want him to make you mad because I want you to see, I'm sure you already see, but I mean you in general, I want you to see what the atheists actually believe and how dumb it is. And then I want to show you the correct version of that, which is the reality version of it, and how smart that is. And them atheists think some dumb things. Atheists think some dumb things. Like evolution. Idiocy. The Big Bang. What you got on? You mind? April said, I love that serious look you have tonight. Get him, Jake. That serious look is just exhaustion coupled with anger. And a little pain thrown in for good measure. But I got him. Yeah, the Big Bang, it's ridiculous that people believe that crap. It really is. And on such little evidence, too. Basically, their evidence is, well, it can't be God. That's the evidence. Because there's no evidence for any of the rest of it. It's entirely made up. Most of science is entirely made up. And then you start finding out that everything else is almost entirely made up. History and social studies and all of it. And then you get very disheartened with the whole process. And you start thinking, well, if this is messed up, is there anything I can believe? Is there anything that is real? Israel. Interesting. I hope he gets saved too. I hope he sees these videos and finds his way to God. I really do. That would be a real victory. All I can do is cast my pearls, though. It's up to him to pick it up. I plant the seed, but it's God that makes the seed grow. And that goes for you, too. Why God sent Jesus. God sent Jesus to be a sacrifice. To cover sin. Are you saying he's why God sent Jesus? His existence? Was that an existential statement? Or were you saying that God sent Jesus to be a seed or to plant one? Nope. He sent him to be the sacrifice that covers all sin. Jesus had to prove who he was before he did that so that we would understand. To cover sins, yes. It is hot and sticky in here, and I hate it when it's sticky. About time to get naked and bask in the fan blowing over me. No one ever said life was easy. That's a fact. It's not easy. It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be a challenge. The whole point in being here is to make a decision. The only way you can make a decision is to be faced with both options. So where did the twins end up? Well, Jacob went on to have many children, and they became the Christians. And Esau went on to grow up and have many children, and they became the atheists, so to speak. Esau is red, meaning his children would be Rush in the old days, which founded Scotland and Russia and all those places. And then China is also red, so there's a possibility that he's related to Shem. Also, Absalom had red hair, and so did David, and so did Jesus, and so did Adam. And red means to be ruddy complected or to show blood in the face or in order to be able to blush, which is a certain type of person. And most of those people congregated around Scotland and Ireland. There's a whole study to be done about where everyone ended up, and it's really murky, and there's no real way to tell because so much interbreeding has gone on. But to find out where the different children went to and how they became who they are, you can look all over the world and see the differences in peoples. And all those people came from different tribes and went to different places And some of them interbreeded, and now you've got mixed breeds all over the place, which is not what God intended, which is why the bloodline was so important in those days, which is why racial purity was important in those days. Not because of some racist propaganda, but because of keeping the bloodlines pure. But there's no chance of that now because everything's mixed. So to find out where you came from is hard to do. But you can look at your physical traits and get some idea. We have a redhead gene in our family, which will tell you where we came from. Among all the other redheaded peoples. Because being a redhead and green eyes is a very specific trait that other people don't have. It's a gene thing, a DNA thing. So I hope that helps. That's the best answer I can give you because there's no way to tell. It's just too murky. There's too many mixed breeds. I have an idea of where things came from and where they go, but I can't be certain. That's why I haven't tackled that study, because there's no way to actually know. But the Bible does a good job of it. If you get into the genealogies, which is the most boring part of the Bible, it will tell you who belongs to who and how they ended up where they are when the Bible was written. But a lot of interbreeding has happened since then, which has further spread us abroad. So it's almost impossible to tell. And for those people out there who think that black people are because Moses cursed Ham, number one, you're wrong. And number two, there are more than one kind of black person. There's several kinds, different types of black people. They're not all the same nationality. They're not all the same breed of human being, which means they came from different places, which means there's black in every culture. I liked how you explained it all. I'm glad you liked it. Thank you. I hope that was understandable. That's something that most people don't want to touch because they're scared of being labeled a racist. I, however, don't care what you think about me. So, I'll touch it. There's lots of black people. There's lots of brown people. There's lots of white people. There's lots of beige people and yellow people and red people and on and on and on and on and on. They came from different places. It has nothing to do with a curse. Not Esau's curse and not Ham's curse. Not Ishmael's curse either. I would say that the black people were here first. Because, God created all the people, male and female, he created them. And then he created Adam, which is a specific breed that would lead to Jesus Christ, a specific bloodline. But all the people were here first. So I imagine that several different nationalities were created before Adam's nationality, which I believe to be ruddy complected, which means red-headed, green eyes. What has two thumbs, red hair, and green eyes? This guy. Although my hair's not red. It is, though, but in spirit. My mama was a flaming redhead. So were all of her sisters, save one. I got the Indian DNA from my father. And I resemble that remark. But I'm redheaded in spirit. And oddly enough, love French fries. Go figure. Rulers? Rulers of what? Some are rulers, some are not. Some get a double portion, some get half a portion. Some get no portion. Some don't get their portion on earth, they wait till they get it in heaven. I got red too, though. A little bit. It shows up in my beard, which is all white now, but it used to be red in my beard. But now it's all white because I'm old. And I did have red highlights in my hair, but that's gone now. It's all gray. Yeah, I do. I have Aunt Lynn all in me. I miss that woman. I really do. Think about her on a daily basis. She would snatch you across the counter in a heartbeat. That's my kind of leader. But you know what they say? Can't beat out the hide what's in the blood. Those are words to live by. I love you too, and I miss her too. But just know that she lives on. And all we can do is honor her memory. It'd be nice if I had some red hair, but I'm kind of glad I'm not a ginger. I really would look weird if I had red hair. That's what she said. I know. That's why I said it. She was right, by the way. And she got it from my granny, who would say that all the time. You can't beat out of the hide what's in the blood. That was another tough woman that I miss dearly. Lived in a wheelchair all the days of her life from childhood. Raised 11 young'uns and all their young'uns by herself with no man in the house. And raised a garden every year and did all of her own cooking and cleaning from that wheelchair by herself. Now that's a tough woman. You like my hair? Thank you. My hair likes you too. Don't hate me because I'm beautiful. Yeah, I've been working on that hair for a long time. It's my Samson blood. I get my strength from my hair. Yes, she was. I wish my kids could have known her. Yep, almost like she was her mother. But that was her role. She did everybody like that. She taught everybody. She was everybody's matriarch. I wish things were like that still, but they're not. People just don't honor their family like they used to. I wish they did. And maybe they do in some places. I just don't see it where I'm at. Don't see it like it used to be anyway. I try to honor my family by being who I am and to give what I can. mentally or spiritually or emotionally, physically. But it just don't seem to be as important as it used to be. And you're right, that is a thing to miss. And I wish those days would come back around. Seems like we were stronger in those days. The world was stronger. The country was stronger. We need to make America great again. Get back to a simpler time in life when things mattered. But we just got to put one foot in front of the other and keep living. That's all we got to do. It's definitely a new day. It sure is. It's a new world. I don't even hardly recognize it, and I certainly don't want to be part of it. It don't seem like it's something I want anything to do with. Just the way the whole world runs now is just makes no sense. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of everything, actually. Seems like we're just trying to just spin our wheels in the mud. Nobody's trying to get any better. For the last 20 years, our greatest scientific breakthrough is a smaller phone. That's it. In the 40s, they were building things like, you wouldn't believe the things they built in the 40s and the 30s. Go look at some German technology. Just look at the way they made all that metal out of nothing. The whole process, it didn't just come out of nowhere. They made it with their hands. They mined the ore from the earth, turned it into metal, and made all that stuff. They were making dirigibles and tanks, and they had the Philadelphia experiment going on out there, and it's just, we don't do any of that anymore. Too much work. It's too hard. Just give me a new iPhone. That's all we really need. Give me some more technology to suck my brain out even further. I wish that a field of asteroids would come by and knock all the satellites out of the sky and send us back to the Dark Ages. For a few months, it will suck. It will be the worst place to be. But after that, we would spring into action. Self-preservation would take over, and we would start building communities again. We would make bonds that lasted generations. We would build families and cultures and get back to a better way of living. That's what we need. All we are, dude, is like dust in the wind. Whoa. See, that's the thing, though. It hasn't all been done. There's a lot that's left to do. We just aren't doing it. We just aren't doing it. There's a lot of things we could be doing. Be careful what you wish for. It could happen. I didn't wish for it in vain. I knew what I was talking about. I meant what I said. It's not likely to happen, but it'd be nice if it did. Because then we could get back to living. And we're not living right now. We're wasting time right now. I would love to live in a community that valued itself instead of hated itself. That's what happens, you see. I got a project for you. Look up the rat trials, the mouse experiments, where they put all the mice in enclosed container and let them live. They introduced drugs and they introduced food and things like that. And watch and see what happens to those mice over a period of time. Rat trials, I think is what it's called. You can find it on YouTube. Just type in rat trials and see what comes up. There's no need to try not to laugh. If you think something's funny, laugh. My job is to entertain, and I hope I'm entertaining. But you see, we're at the end of society. We're the pretty ones. We're the ones who care only about our exteriors and don't care about making families anymore and don't care about fighting or anything like that. We're the pretty ones. Look up the rat trials and you'll know what I'm talking about. That happens at the end. That's just before the collapse of society. And it's happened many times before. It happened in Rome. They faced much of what we're going through right now. It's the rats are going to be the ones that kill us. I doubt it. I think we're the ones that are going to kill us. I think that life will stagnate and come to a screeching halt, and we'll just exist until we cease to exist. I think that's what'll happen. And so far, I've been right. That's the way it looks. But we'll see. The Bible says it'll get worse before it gets better. And it's getting worse. We're not far from it. We're not far from the end. I don't know how far. I'm not sure it's going to happen in our lifetime. I think it'll probably happen in our children's lifetimes, though. Yes, they do, but that's beside the point. Look up the rat trials and you'll understand something about our culture, because they did an experiment with rats that kind of show how cultures, how they act when they're crammed together in little boxes, when they're not allowed to live and be free, when they become cubicalized and desensitized and shoved in each other's faces. They start all manner of progressively worse behaviors until they reach an end, and then the whole civilization crumbles and they all die. One of the things that happens is they start losing their gender, losing their identity. They become neutral, and then they become fat and pretty. But before that, they become warrior-like. And before that, they become addicted to drugs. Just look them up. That's all I know to tell you. The rat trials, or the rat experiments in New York. They have a name, but I can't think of what it is right now. I'll look into it and get back with you on it. We might even watch it on the podcast one night as a critique. I might do that. That'll give you a good understanding of what's happening to our society and where it will end. If you happen to look it up and watch it, it's a documentary. It's about 30 minutes long or so. If you happen to look it up and watch it, let me know that you saw it, and we'll discuss it. It's hard for me to discuss it now because you don't know what I'm talking about. You don't have any reference to it. But if you watch it, you'll understand what I'm seeing. I want to say it's the Morley, Moreley, Morley experiments, but I might be wrong about that. But if you look up on YouTube rat experiments, I think you'll find a documentary. It's made in the 80s. It's got kind of a grainy look to it, but it's about putting rats in a small enclosed civilization and how they react to it, to their environment. And it was done by some research facility in New York. Prison populations act the same way, by the way. You should. It's a good education into what the civilization is doing and why. And we're not all that different. All civilizations act pretty much the same when faced with the same circumstances. So it's a good allegory for what's going on in this country right now, and the reason that the riots are happening and all that stuff. It just happens faster because they're smaller and, you know, they live less length. So sad, too. All right, it's 10 o'clock. I love you guys with all of my heart. I hope you had a good time tonight. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, press the like button, press the subscribe button, press the share button, press the bell button, leave a comment. Follow the links in the description below. Go to paypal.me/JakeJohnsonBand and help us out. We're doing the best we can. We will see you Monday, that's tomorrow, with a brand new installment of Mark, the book of Mark. We're going to get down and get dirty. I'm excited. I love you, and I'll see you then.